You know California for its wealth, its red carpets, and its beachfront estates worth more than some small country's entire GDP. But behind the golden gates and the perfectly manicured hedges, there's something people don't really talk about. Scattered across this state, tucked into hillsides, rotting on cliffs above the Pacific, sinking into desert sand, are mansions that were built by some of the richest people in America, and every single one was abandoned. Not because the money ran out, but because something about these places drove their owners away. In this video, we're uncovering 7 abandoned mansions in California that haunted the rich. And make sure you stick around until the end, because the #1 mansion on this list was built by a man so powerful he thought money could buy him forever. Spoiler, the house had other plans. So hit that subscribe button and let's get into it. Number 7, the Cuesta Encantada estate, Montecito, Santa Barbara County. Up in the hills above Montecito, you know, where Oprah and Prince Harry have their places, there's a private road that dead ends at a rusted iron gate. Behind it sits what's left of a 12,000-square-foot Mediterranean mansion built in 1926 by a shipping magnate who'd made his fortune running cargo between San Francisco and the South Pacific. And I mean, this guy went all out. Italian marble floors, hand-painted ceilings imported from Florence, gardens designed by the same firm that landscaped San Simeon. For about 5 years, it was one of the most photographed homes on the Central Coast. Politicians, movie stars, they all came through. But here's where things turn. The owner's wife died in the home in 1931, a fall down the grand staircase. The coroner ruled it accidental, but the household staff whispered a very different story to reporters. Within 6 months, the estate was sealed shut. He moved to New York and never returned, not once. The property changed hands twice after that. Neither buyer lasted a full year. Today, the roof has collapsed on the east wing. Vines have swallowed the garden pavilion whole, and that grand staircase, still standing, leading up to a second floor that no longer exists. Number 6, the Hacienda del Sol, Riverside County. Out past Palm Springs, where the desert flattens into absolutely nothing, there's an estate that most people mistake for a mirage. And honestly, it kind of is one. A sprawling Spanish colonial mansion built in 1929 by an oil baron who wanted to create, and I quote, "a palace worthy of a king in a land with no kingdom." The place had 22 rooms, a courtyard with a working fountain fed by an underground spring, and a private airstrip. During Prohibition, it was rumored to be a stopover for bootleggers running liquor up from Mexico. The parties were legendary. Hollywood's biggest names showed up on weekends. Then the spring dried up, just like that. No water, no fountain, no gardens. The desert started reclaiming the property almost immediately. The owner tried drilling new wells, spent a fortune on it, and found nothing. He walked away in 1937. Today, sand drifts through the open doorways. The courtyard fountain is buried under 3 feet of dust, but the tile work on the walls, hand-painted, incredibly detailed, still glows in the afternoon light. It's like finding a cathedral in the middle of nowhere. Number 5, the Whitmore estate, Humboldt County. Now this one's different. We're not in the desert or the hills. We're deep in Northern California's redwood country, where the fog rolls in so thick you can't see 10 feet ahead. And somewhere in that fog, at the end of a logging road that hasn't been maintained since the 1980s, sits a Victorian mansion that lumber money built. The Whitmore family made millions during the timber boom of the late 1800s. Their estate was the crown jewel of Humboldt County. 3 stories, a wraparound porch, stained glass windows shipped from England. But the family's fortune collapsed when the timber regulations hit, and, well, so did the family itself. Lawsuits, feuds, a suspicious fire in 1912 that destroyed the West Wing.
By the 1920s, the last surviving Whitmore locked the doors and disappeared. Literally. No forwarding address, no death certificate ever filed. The estate has sat in legal limbo for a century. Today, redwood saplings are growing through the floorboards. The forest is literally eating the house. If you find it, and that's a big if, you'll see wallpaper still clinging to the walls, a piano in the front room with its keys warped from moisture. It's as if the forest decided to absorb the whole thing back into itself. And hey, if you're enjoying this journey so far, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss our next exploration. Now let's keep going.
Number 4. The Belmont Heights Manor, San Francisco Bay Area. Perched on a hillside overlooking the bay, this Gilded Age mansion was built in 1891 by a railroad investor who wanted to rival the Nob Hill elite. 26 rooms, a ballroom with gold leaf molding, servants' quarters that were nicer than most people's actual homes. For a decade, it hosted some of the most extravagant parties on the West Coast. Then came the 1906 earthquake. The mansion itself survived. It was one of the few that did. But something shifted, and I don't just mean the foundation. The owner's business partners died in the disaster. His fortune evaporated in the fires that followed. He sold the estate at a massive loss. Over the next century, the manor served as a boarding house, a sanatorium, and briefly a private school. Each iteration ended badly. Each owner reported the same thing: strange sounds from the ballroom at night, doors that wouldn't stay locked, a persistent cold spot on the second-floor landing that no amount of heating could fix. The last occupants left in 2003. The building is technically condemned now, but from the street below you can still see the ballroom windows catching the sunset. They glow like they're lit from inside, even though the power was cut off 20 years ago. Number 3. The Piedra Blanca Compound, Big Sur, Monterey County. Clinging to the cliffs above the Pacific, accessible only by a private road that's been washed out more times than anyone can count, this concrete and glass mansion was built in 1965 by a tech pioneer, one of the early Silicon Valley guys who made his money before anyone called it Silicon Valley. He designed the house himself, cantilevered over a 200-foot drop to the ocean, floor-to-ceiling windows, no neighbors for miles. He called it his fortress of solitude, and for a while that's exactly what it was. But the cliffs are eroding. Every year the Pacific takes another few inches. By the 1990s, cracks appeared in the foundation. Engineers told him to demolish and rebuild further back. He refused. He said the house was perfect where it was. He died in 2001, and his heirs immediately abandoned the property. Today, the house hangs over the edge like it's deciding whether to jump. Waves crash into the cliff face below, sending salt spray through the broken windows. It's estimated the mansion has maybe 10 years before the ocean claims it entirely.
If you've made it this far, drop a comment telling us which of these mansions you'd most want to explore. And stay with us, because our number 1 entry has a story that honestly still doesn't make sense. Number 2. The Holloway Ranch Estate, Kern County. In the foothills east of Bakersfield, hidden behind a grove of dead eucalyptus trees, sits a 19,000-square-foot ranch mansion that oil money built in 1922. The original owner struck black gold on this very land, and instead of moving to Beverly Hills like everyone else, he built his dream home right on top of the wells. The estate had everything: a private lake, horse stables, a guest house bigger than most regular houses. But the oil wells that funded it all were also poisoning the groundwater. The family started getting sick in the 1940s. Unexplained illnesses, livestock dying, gardens that wouldn't grow no matter what they planted. By 1955, the family abandoned the property. Environmental testing decades later revealed toxic levels of petroleum compounds in the soil surrounding the house. The water in the private lake turned a milky gray color that it still is today. The mansion stands largely intact. The oil derricks out back still creak in the wind. And the strangest part? Crude oil has been slowly seeping up through the basement floor for years, pooling in black puddles across the original hardwood. The house is literally drowning in the fortune that built it. Number 1. The Crestline Manor, San Bernardino Mountains. And here it is, at 5,200 feet elevation, at the end of a road that local maps label simply as private, sits what might be the most unsettling abandoned mansion in California. Crestline Manor was built over a span of 12 years, from 1947 to 1959, by a pharmaceutical magnate who had made hundreds of millions developing post-war medications. The mansion had 34 rooms, a library with over 10,000 volumes, an underground wine cellar carved directly into the mountainside, a conservatory with glass walls overlooking the valley below. He reportedly told architects he wanted a house that would outlast the centuries. He envisioned it as a family seat for generations. But here's where the story goes sideways. The owner became increasingly paranoid during construction. He added reinforced steel doors, panic rooms, a tunnel system beneath the property that connected to an exit point half a mile down the mountain. No one knows exactly what he was afraid of. When the house was finally finished in 1959, he moved in alone. His family refused to join him. His wife filed for divorce, citing his irrational obsession with the property. He lived there by himself for 3 years. Neighbors, and I'm using that term loosely because the nearest house was over a mile away, reported seeing lights on at all hours, music playing from empty rooms. In 1962, he disappeared. Not died. Disappeared. His car was found in the driveway. His personal belongings were still inside the house, coffee cup on the kitchen counter, shoes by the front door, but he was gone. The case was never solved. The estate has been tangled in probate ever since, with no heir willing to claim it. And honestly, who would want to? Today, the mansion sits exactly as it was left. Hikers who found their way to the property describe an atmosphere they can't quite put into words. The doors are sealed, the windows are dark, but there's a feeling, they say, that the house is waiting. Not decaying, not collapsing, just waiting. It's the kind of place that makes you wonder whether some houses aren't really built for people at all. Maybe they're built for something else entirely. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what his owner figured out before he vanished. So there you have it, 7 abandoned mansions in California that money couldn't save. Places where fortune met something it couldn't buy its way out of. If this video gave you chills, share it with someone who needs to see it, and subscribe because we've got a lot more stories like this coming. Until next time.